Andrew.
Hey, how's things?
I'm just here in my little flat in Stockwell, looking out onto the Garden of Dreams.
I'm in my flat in Walthamstow, also looking out onto a Garden of Dreams. And this is the Showstopper Podcast.
Yes, that's right. The podcast where normally we're in the same room together and then we talk about, and two musical theatre stars or comedians and things about their exciting life as a performer. But currently we are on either end of the not quite functioning Victoria line, not talking to anyone face to face. So, of course, as we're talking, the West End is dark. When was the last time the whole of the West End was dark? Was it World War II?
Yeah, absolutely. And the day all the theatres closed, we were, in fact, scheduled to do a show at the Lyric Theatre. In fact, the closure came as we were backstage getting into costume and makeup.
That's right. And Ruth was eating a disappointing burger from a chain, a vegan burger, I'll add, just so you know. So we were mainly just moaning about how bad this burger was. And then in comes Dylan Emery.
Showstopper co-creator and director.
And says, sorry, chaps, it's not going to happen. And then we went, well, we should do something though, shouldn't we? And so we decided to live stream off two mobile phones.
Right. And we turned out we were the one West End show operating that evening, albeit in a virtual space. Everyone went home. Sadly, we couldn't let any audience in the building. And we just sort of did a show into a silent void.
Yeah, it was so weird performing to like 900 people, 900 chairs, sorry. There were like 6 ushers, weren't there, who'd stayed for a bit. And then... But then it was so interesting that you still got the adrenaline rush, knowing there were people watching the live feed.
And it was great. A load of people were kind enough to watch along and then throw in comments as we went along. And it was a really nice taste of where things have now started to go, really. The online live streaming sphere is where it's at for all of us at the moment.
So if you want to watch that, because it is still on Facebook, isn't it? It's on facebook.com/theshowstoppers. And you'll find that. I think it's over 100,000 views now.
I think Pippa, at time of recording, it's close to 200,000.
What? Say what? So it's, and we were even listed in The Guardian as something to watch. So right.
So we never get The Guardian normally.
So I don't know about you, but I've become very good at Zoom this week.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you don't know Zoom, I imagine everybody listening does know what Zoom is. But if you don't, it's an online video chat and conference call resource that we're all making an incredible amount of use of.
Yeah, their shares have gone up like crazy, haven't they? Like 500% or something. And then, of course, we're also recording it on a Zoom recorder. So it's a double Zoom.
Oh, that's true. You'll notice our audio quality has not stepped down, even in the current climate, because Pippa and I both have Zoom H6 recording devices, which is what we normally record the podcast on. So what we're saying, folks who are listening, is that your Showstopper podcast is unaffected and will carry on coming to you just like it always did.
And actually, Andrew, I'm going to give a shout out to you because... You've also, in the last week or however long it's been since the government said no talking, no touching, that you've started your own show called Isolation.
That's right.
On the Facebook. And the audio quality from your end is always very good.
Oh, well, thank you, Pippa. The quality of my improvisation leaves a lot to be desired, but the audio quality is bang on.
And if that's what you're into, audio quality, then really look no further than Andrew Pugsley.
Hey, I'll take it. At this difficult time, I'll take that.
What are you finding the weirdest thing about improvising not on a stage?
It's difficult to do a dramatic pause. Because there's no way of communicating to the other person, like, am I about to say something else? Or is this me, passing a line over to you? All of those like tiny little kind of facial micro expressions and little pigs and tails that we never think about consciously. All of that communication is suddenly lost. Yeah, it's sort of like learning to improvise from the beginning again. Yeah,
I was talking to my clever friend Mark Vernon today, and he said, "Oh yes, the thing about online communication is you lose your embodied cognition." What a phrase. We lose all of our embodied cognition, all the things we don't realise that we do, in the same way that when people say, do you give each other signals? We go, no, of course we don't. But of course we do. We just don't do them on purpose. We just give signals.
I mean, that's 100% true, although I'm very sad that I'm not the person you refer to as your clever friend. I'm going to have to try a lot harder from now on.
You're my top audio friend.
Top audio friend. Again, I'll take it. I'll take it right now, whatever I can get.
I categorize all my friends.
It's good to know. But we should say the Showstopper podcast, it will be carrying on. We're going to be bringing you an episode once a month. We got a couple of episodes that are sort of in the bank already that were recorded before the UK lockdown happened. And after that, we're going to be carrying on doing some remote recordings, and we'll be bringing you a little dose of something that isn't the news once a month.
We should talk about this episode maybe, shouldn't we?
What a perfect time to do that.
Well, I like segways. Not the bicycle-y things. Well, they're not really bicycle. Well, they are bicycle, aren't they? Because they're two-wheel. Could you call it a bicycle?
I don't know what you call it, but I personally love a Segway.
Do you?
Yeah, I've ridden on one more than once, and they're great fun.
When you say more than once, is it still less than 5?
Twice.
That really is more than once. Anyway, you know who loves a Segway?
Yeah.
It's Grace Mouat from
That's right.
And Juliet, and also an original member of the Six Gang. She was the original swinger, as in she had to know all of the parts, which is crazy. Can you imagine having to learn 6 parts?
I mean, as improvisers, people who are unable to learn even one part, the skill and talent that's involved in learning 6 parts is just far beyond our wildest dreams.
I mean, I literally have been trying to learn one song by Fairport Convention this whole week, and I can't even tell you what the first line is. I'm literally trying right now. No, can't do it.
Can I segue into asking why you're trying to learn a song by Fairport Convention?
It's my favourite song by Fairport Convention. It's called Ginny.
It's not that favourite. You don't know the first line.
You don't have to know a song to love it.
Okay. Listen, I haven't heard this song before. It's my favourite song, though. Who's it by? I have no idea. Never come across it before. It is my favourite song. It
was on a cassette my friend made me when I was 16. And one time I was walking through Covent Garden Market, and it was quite empty, and there was a busker, and he was just by himself, and he started singing this song Ginny by Fairport Convention, and I just sat and listened to it and cried because it was so beautiful, and it was just me and him, and then I gave him £1. What a beautiful story.
That is actually quite a touching story. I now feel slightly guilty for having teased you about it. That does sound beautiful.
I really do love it. It's a beautiful song. But my improv brain means I can't. So it's like Ginny, da 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 da. That's the first line. There you go. That's all I can remember. The taste of the wine. Getting high on the beer and the atmosphere of a good time. That's pretty.
Well, Steady Honor will have to pay copyright for that song.
Oh, true. Yeah, sorry.
One person who's great at learning lots of songs, be they her favourite or not, is our guest, Grace Mouat. We chatted to her at the Museum of Comedy back in February, when the world was a little different. We had a little chat along with showstopper Ali James. And Duncan Walsh Atkins joined us on keys. Why don't we have a listen to that chat?
Press play.
Hey!
It's the podcast time!
Yay!
And we're very excited because on our left we have Ali James, showstopper extraordinaire.
Yo, what's up?
Pippa's using the royal we there. She's on my right.
My nickname is Princess Pippa in the show. So it's right that we're royal. Because really on our right we have Grace Mouat.
Yay!
And we're so glad to have you, Grace, because, well, number one, you have seen Showstopper and love us.
Yes, I
have.
Which is
exciting for us.
3 times, you know.
Wow. Really? 3 times?
3 times.
Even more of a fan than we thought.
Yeah,
but perhaps more importantly, you have been and are currently in 2 of the biggest shows in the West End, which are Six and Juliet.
Yay!
So that's very exciting for us because you're so brilliant.
Oh, thanks. You guys are brilliant.
How does it feel to be in 2 smashes?
Yeah, I'm a bit scared because I'm a bit like, oh, have I like peaked? Because you know, like the shows like that don't really come around much. But no, I'm joking. But yeah, it's really good, and both of them are really like strong, empowering women vibes. So like Six is all about like not comparing yourself with others, and then And Juliet is all about like self-love, self-discovery. So yeah, 2 like big feminist musicals has really, really been cool, especially, and made me really like Girl power.
Yeah.
International
Power
Women's
woman.
Day just been and all that.
Yes,
And maybe we should just start at the beginning for people who don't know either of those musicals. Tell us, what is Six and what is And Juliet?
So Six is basically a pop concert of Henry VIII's wives. They kind of, without giving any spoilers, they kind of introduce themselves. It's very like Little Mix vibes of modern day music and costumes, etc. And they kind of say, okay, the person who had the most from Henry is going to be the lead singer of the girl band. And then they all go through their songs and tell their story. And then at the end, Catherine Parr is like, no, why are we fighting? We should all be together. And they're like, woo, girl power. There's obviously more to it than that.
There's some amazing choreography, right?
Amazing choreography by an incredible Carrie Ann, who's also like Mrs. Hamilton. She's amazing. And the writing's amazing, proper like sarcastic humor. It's all like directed to the audience, so it's really engaging, and it's only 75 minutes long. So I was finished by 9:15, which was lovely.
Imagine that.
Yeah, that's part of the job that I really miss. And then And Juliet is basically a retelling of Romeo and Juliet, kind of like what would have happened if Juliet didn't kill herself over Romeo, because she's got her whole life to live. So she kind of starts again. She goes to Paris. She lives her best life, meets these amazing people, kind of Wizard of Oz vibes. And then spoiler alert, stop listening. Keep listening. Romeo comes back from the dead, and then they kind of go through that journey of second chances and etc.
Yeah, and music by Max Martin, who wrote all of those pop hits that you know, and just more songs than you
I
can
didn't say
imagine.
that. It's all pop music, which is kind of a big element of the show. But the writer David West Reed, should I say, he wrote Schitt's Creek, which is a really funny series, and it's kind of a very similar humor, very dry, very sarcastic. So like all of the songs fit in so well, and like it's been directed really great by Luke Shepherd, that like we just like really embrace the cheese. And I feel like that's why people love it, because you know, like some people can go to a really cheesy musical and they'll be like, oh, I didn't like that because it's cheesy. But when they can see that we know that it's cheesy and it's silly and it's fun, it works. Do you know what I mean? And they're kind of like, oh yeah, I had a really good time, and it's just a bit of fun, but also with some like really important stories and characters. So yeah.
Do you know off the top of your head how many songs? Because when I saw it, I couldn't believe how many songs they managed to smash in there. So was it? I feel like there must be like 30 songs in it or something. Or,
yeah,
because some of them are just
around that.
excerpts of songs, aren't they? They're not all the full song.
And then there's a few mashups.
Yeah.
I reckon around that. But it's all like the bops, like Hit Me Baby, Everybody, Backstreet Boys, Can't Stop the Feeling, Katy Perry. Like it's like there's stuff in it for everyone. So yeah,
I really like the viral campaign that you guys did, where the two lads went in the streets and like got people to sing the ends of the songs.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, Tim and Aaron, they're so funny.
So they went around the streets of Covent Garden and the like with a microphone and just would start singing one of the songs and then put the microphone in someone's mouth. And, and most of the time they would finish the song.
Yeah, but they'll do it like, oh baby, one more time. So I'm really scared.
Amazing. We should go and do that with improvised songs.
Yeah, we should.
And just look at people expectantly as if you're meant to know the rest of the song.
Probably most of the time they would know it, wouldn't they? Like if I just go, strawberries are
creamy.
Yeah.
And pillows are
fluffy.
Yeah. We got a new game. I love that you referred to the choreographer of Six as Mrs. Hamilton.
I call her Mrs. Hamilton because like she sets up the show. She's like the resident choreographer. And yeah, she's just so cool. She's just so cool. And also she works so hard on it. Like she used to literally be at Six one night, Hamilton the next night, this show the next night. Now she's like on Broadway. Like she is unbelievable. Yeah, she's amazing. Mrs. Hamilton.
And you were swing on Six?
Yes, so I started as a swing on the UK tour. We did 6 months and I was actually the only swing. and it was hard, but so fun. I had so much fun like playing all of them. And then when we moved to town, I became an alternate along with 2 other girls, Vicky and Courtney, and they came and joined us, and we became 9. I had to do maths then. 9 instead of 7.
I can only count to 6.
Yeah, no, 8. But yeah, so they joined us and we all became alternates. So we had 2 queens who we covered every week. And I was dance captain as well.
Great. Oh, so you got to work alongside Mrs. Hamilton.
Yeah,
great.
I worked alongside the Mrs. Hamilton.
Amazing.
I think we should just pause at this moment, because there's a whole lot of MT terminology that has just flown by that people might have no idea what it is.
Yes,
Let's
that's
start.
true.
What on earth is a swing in a musical theatre production?
Okay, so it's kind of different on 6 because obviously there's only 6 people in the cast. So let's say with like a big musical, you have the leads, the ensemble, and then the swings. So swings can also cover leads, and it does happen. It happens in our cast. But usually there'll be an ensemble will cover a lead. So for example, when I go on as Juliet, there's a swing called Sophie who goes on and plays my track. So swings are off-stage covers. They wait in the dressing room, or usually not. They're usually on every night. But yeah, they know all the tracks and they usually save the day. So yeah, when I was a swing on 6, I was kind of backstage, and then whenever anyone's ill, I would go on and do their role.
I think it's so interesting that like in like popular culture, like the idea of like being a cover or understudy like is so different from what the reality of it is in, you know, in actual shows. That like there's always this kind of idea in like films about understudies that it's like a kind of jealous person who doesn't feel they have the respect that they have and can't wait for the lead to die and all the rest of it. And actually, like if you're a swing in a West End show, you're an incredibly valuable, not to mention incredibly talented person. And so
Yes.
the skill set that a swing needs to have is off the charts.
Yeah, I completely agree. And in the musical theatre industry, I must say like the respect and for covers is definitely growing. And like there's a lot of people who like ask for my dates because they want to see like a different spin. And like in 6, like the swings and alternates are very popular because like you could just do something so different with a character and people would love it. But yeah, I must admit, like for people who aren't really in that world, it is not nice sometimes, like going on for your part and knowing that like someone in the audience who doesn't know anything about musical theatre might come in, see the person who's been on all the posters and been all the press and be like, oh, it's not them. Oh. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I want my money back. I want this. Do you know what I mean? Especially when it's a celebrity. Like, I remember like when Alexandra Burke was doing The Bodyguard, there was a lot of that stuff around it and people were just going to see her. And I was like, it just doesn't work like that. You go to watch a show, you pay your ticket to watch the show and have some escapism and have a good time. You don't pay to go and see that person. Do you know what I mean? If you want to see that person, go to cabarets or something like they're doing, you know. There's so much more to a show than that. But yeah, I love it because it's just not the same thing every night. It's a bit of fun and like I definitely do want to play leads when I develop in my career. But yeah, I love doing it and it's especially on 6.
Grace, so having had all your cover rehearsals, etc., as Juliet, how did that feel when you're first going on for that amazing role?
Oh my goodness, it was the most ridiculous night of my life. My first Juliet show, I wanted family and friends wise. I only really wanted my mum, my dad, my housemate, and her mum, and I was like, fine, that's done. And then it kind of got out on Twitter because it was a scheduled show that I was going on, that this was going to be my first one, and like musical theatre fans love a debut. They love a debut. So it's loads of amazing 6 fans who are just brilliant. They all came, and then eventually loads of family and friends ended up being there. So it was just the craziest night. The audience were electric. It was like press night all over again because everyone was just like so behind me and I was so nervous. But then like after the first number, I kind of realised, I was like, everyone here, like who's here to see me, wants me to do great and wants me to be amazing. So why am I worried?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's a lot of love coming back at you from the
Yeah,
audience.
there was so much love. And like the stage door was crazy. We all went for a drink after and it was just like, it was honestly up there, one of the best nights of my life. However, I must admit I was a bit of a rabbit in headlights. As you can probably imagine, like it is such a crazy role. So the show I do as Juliet now is much more relaxed.
Yeah, sure.
Because it was just kind of like adrenaline. I had a full-on adrenaline hangover the next day.
So if that one was like a scheduled first one, in your experience with Six as well, what's the sort of most short notice you've been put on as a cover? Like, can you tell us about any of those experiences?
Yeah, I think my shortest notice before a show was 5 minutes.
Wow.
So I was literally putting my face on at beginners and getting ready. But the thing that was amazing about Six was like, obviously being in a cast of 7 and then 9 for 15 months, you can't help but be so close.
Yeah,
being in such a small cast. So we were all like absolute sisters. And whenever something like that would happen, so I got told, and then I would literally stand there. I'd have one girl on my hair, one girl helping me with my makeup, one girl holding my script in front of me while I go over my lines, one girl like dressing me. Like they are all just amazing. Like they're just so funny. And then I had only one time actually, because there weren't that many like mid-show throw-ons, because it's only 75 minutes, no interval. But there was one time that one of my best friends, actually, Maya Quantabreed, she was playing Catherine Parr. She had a nosebleed, but like a full-on nosebleed.
Wow.
As in it just wasn't stopping and like actually made her like feel quite faint. So I went on for Catherine Parr mid-show, and she's the last one, the survivor. And I was literally drinking my favourite Alpro chocolate milk in my dressing room. The worst thing to drink before you're about to sing, because I was just so sure that it wasn't happening.
I had a knock on my door. It could have been absinthe.
Yeah, I do that. I could have been having a drink.
Which we had in Showstopper once when Justin, we were in Edinburgh and Justin, it was his night off, so he'd had a couple of beers or something, and then something happened. So suddenly it was like, Justin, can you come to Showstopper? He's like, I mean, I can.
But you don't want to see what I have to bring tonight.
So
he did. He went on. It was only 2 beers. It was too bad, but he was definitely in that kind of like, I'm definitely trying to be sober right now. But it was really exciting.
We've never done a mid-show cast watch in Showstopper.
No,
I think it would be very confusing for the audience.
Yeah, because
Not to mention the cast.
Not to mention the cast.
Because it's confusing sometimes in those in West End shows when the alternates don't look the same. So a friend of mine was in 39 Steps, and the person playing the role that she was the only woman in it, was the main one was like 5 foot and quite round, and my friend's like 5'10" and very slim, and she had to go on in the middle because the lady turned her ankle, and so suddenly this whole completely different person turned up. So it was amazing how I wonder what would happen if you don't even have a costume to say this is the same character. You've literally got one hat that you might forget to put on. Or you can't find because someone else is wearing it. Do you remember any of the shows you saw of us, Grace? Do you remember anything that was happening in them?
I remember one was at like Bognor Regis. In Edinburgh.
Okay, yeah.
Actually, every time I saw it was in Edinburgh. And yeah, there was a song, but like it was like Bognor.
Sounds like a
we
classic.
were being creative then.
See how we like to play with words.
Yeah, I love it. And I definitely saw one that was in the style of Hamilton.
Okay, yeah, great.
And I think there was one that was in the style of Les Mis. But yeah, the most recent one I saw, the ones I saw before were way before. But that was definitely Bognor.
Was that in Edinburgh this year? 2 years ago.
It was 2 years ago. Yeah, when I was there was 6.
It's so funny, like what we can remember, what we can't remember. Like I wonder if you can remember whether Grace was in 6 when you saw it in Edinburgh.
Grace was not in it when I saw it in Edinburgh, I'm afraid.
No, your friend was in it.
Yes, and Ali saw it the same night.
Oh, who's your friend?
Amy Atkinson.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who hopefully listen to this podcast, send her a tweet and tell her to come on the podcast.
Yeah, Amy,
Yeah,
come on the
Amy.
podcast. I'm here.
Yeah, can you text her, Grace?
Yeah, well.
Yeah, it's a great show. It really gets the house pumping, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's really fun,
it
really
was
high
so
energy.
fun. We loved Edinburgh so much.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
And you mentioned you have such a loyal fan base for Six, and I remember even in Edinburgh when the show was like pre-West End and like very very new, you'd already got like a big like stage door crowd, like a big following already there.
Yeah, we had. I think Edinburgh was the first place that we went that like people were recognising us on the streets.
Wow,
And we were like, what's going on? Because like bearing in mind, like we'd only done 2 venues before that, Norwich and Cambridge, and like. I don't know. I didn't think Six the Musical was very Norwich kind of place, Norwich kind of show. However, I had the best time in Norwich. It was great. And then before that, when we were auditioning for the show, we didn't know what it was about, what the music was. Like it was like brand new, really. They'd done a workshop of it, but still there was no available material online. So all of us were like, oh, okay, like this looks good. And I accepted the job purely from the vibes in the audition. I had such a good time. So yeah, Edinburgh was the time it kind of blew up around us. We were all kind of like, what's going on? And I think a lot of like the fan base thing is kind of like, people would literally, especially when I was only 7 of us and we were doing everything together all day and we lived together on tour as well. Like people were literally looking at us as a girl band. Do you know what I mean? And we got given these like denim jackets to do press in that had like 6 in diamantes and like our names. Do you know what I mean? We were doing all this kind of girl band press stuff. But we were still in a musical. We were kind of like, are we in a band now? Like it was really, really weird, but so cool. But yeah, it was just the craziest 15 months of my life that I was like, I don't really know if I'm like in a concert or like a musical or like, do you know what I mean? But it was, it was amazing. It was so fun.
So in terms of career, because you said, I worry I've peaked already, which is what an amazing problem to have. So how soon out of drama school or college or like what's been your journey? Like how did you end up in that Six room? That Six audition.
Yeah, so I actually made my debut in Six the night before I graduated.
Wow.
Yeah, it was the maddest 2 days. So I was in Cambridge and I made my debut as Catherine of Aragon. And that was kind of a scheduled one because they kind of wanted me to go on before Edinburgh. Because in Edinburgh, I then made a debut as Everyone. Just to like have done it before London, because that was our next stop. And then me and Maya, we were in the same year. And we got Maya's mum drove us back to Guildford and then we graduated at GSA the next day and then went back to do a show that night, back to Cambridge that night. So it was just crazy. It was amazing. I was kind of auditioning for it while I was in 3rd year and one of the producers came to our showcase like during the audition process and like the producers were lovely. My friend got an offer and then me and Maya, who was in my year, we were in the finals together and they kind of said to Maya in the room, they're like, we want you in the show. We just don't know what as. And they didn't really say it to me. And I was like, oh gosh. And they'd only heard me sing 2 Queens, Berlin and Cleves, and then my own song. And I was like, right, okay. Who am I going to be? Like, if I'm going to be anyone, have I even got it? And my friend who'd already got it, she'd got Swing, but wasn't taking it. And so they were kind of still seeing me for Berlin, but like, and I was just a bit like, I don't know what's going on. And then a few days later, I signed with an agent, Paling and Jenkins, who are amazing. And in my interview with Paling and Jenkins, so I just signed, I was like, great, got an agent now. I had an email from my head of year who was looking after me at the time saying, call me ASAP. So I said to Stephen, my agent, I was like, shall I call him? Shall I call him? He was like, yeah, go on, call him. And I answered, he was like, you've just been offered Swing in Six. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what? And I just signed with this agent. We were jumping around the office going, ah! And it was just the weirdest 10 minutes of my life. I was like, I've got an agent and a job. And I was there like, oh yeah, he said, you've been offered Six. And I was like, oh my God, it's Anne Boleyn. And he went, no, Swing, you're playing all of them. And I was like, what? Yeah, so it was just mad. And then it was a few weeks later that they called me again and said about dance captain. And so all this stuff was happening around me. And I was like, whoa, I don't even know what this show is. And I'm doing all these things. But I had a friend who's now my housemate and also my best friend, Renee Lamb. She did the workshop of it. So I was kind of asking her questions and she was really chuffed for me. And yeah, it was just the maddest time. And then with Juliet, how I ended up here, I auditioned while we were in London. This was November 2018. And then we did a workshop in February and then we opened last November. So I kind of had it before 11 months before we started, which was very weird. Yeah, that's how I got here.
That's amazing.
In a very long-winded way.
So great.
Yeah, but everyone's dream surely at drama school is that you get the job just before you leave. So you're still you feel like you're flying off the branches rather than that horrible thud down to the ground and go, how do I get back up there again? You know?
Yeah.
That's what everyone thinks is going to happen when they start drama school. As soon as I finish. And I love the way first year drama students are always incredibly picky about what work they're going to do.
Yeah.
It was yes, when I go out, I'm not going to do any musicals, or I'm only going to choose work that's really right for me. And then 6 months after being unemployed after leaving drama school, can I have anything, please?
Yeah.
Can I advertise hot dogs?
Ambulance guy in EastEnders, please. I remember the first most arrogant thing I ever said, which was, it's really important to say things out loud so that grown-ups can correct you. I was 14 and I said to my mum's friend, I said, I'll never do films because you don't, it's not the same, theatre's where all the skill is. You don't need skill to do a film. 14 years old. And my mum's friend, Freda, who's this amazing woman from Manhattan, just went, you think you don't need a skill to do a film? You don't think it takes skill to do the last scene first and the first scene last? You think it doesn't take skill to access that emotion over and over again? And I was just going, no. It was such a horrible feeling. That was the first time someone really went, what a stupid thing to say in my face. Yeah. So I recognize now that there's skill in all acting. But particularly theatre.
I think it's so important to not box yourself.
Yeah.
Because I was I love singing legit. And in my 3 years at drama school, I was always kind of the person in the year that they're like, oh yeah, you'll be in Les Mis. You'll be in Rodgers and Hammerstein stuff. I loved doing that kind of stuff, and then ended up in 2 pop musicals.
Yes.
So
belting out the Britney.
Yeah. So I'm I say I've peaked, but actually there's so much other styles that I'd love to go into.
Yeah.
That's a song in itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's so amazing as well because people who don't know you, or obviously once everybody who listens to this podcast has listened to it, then they'll know. But the fact that people will go, oh yeah, Grace, she's that lady that sings pop, So then when you do a Rodgers and Hammerstein, they'll be like, what? When people go, what do you mean that person who was in the bill can also be in the, the fact that we pigeonhole people so much, it's just in our nature to go, oh, you're the person that does that. And so when they vaguely break the mold, it's do you remember, I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, when Rick Mail was in the bill. I don't know why the bill's on my mind so much. You probably don't even know what the bill is, Grace.
No, I know what the bill is.
So young. But when Rick Mail played at a crazy man on the bill, and I think he killed himself in the episode. He jumps off a bridge and everyone was like, oh my God, he can do serious acting. And we were really surprised that Rick Mail, but of course he can do serious acting. He's an actor,
It's just known as acting.
Exactly. Serious acting. I love it.
Popped up as King Herod, didn't he, in that
yes, he did.
production of Jesus Christ Superstar.
Did he?
Yeah.
And redefined the role.
Did he?
Yeah, the Glenn Carter version of Jesus Christ Superstar.
What a great fact. I can't imagine him as King Herod.
Well, check it out, Pips.
Okay, I'll Google it.
In fact, a lot of people who played King Herod after Rick Mail have put in a very Rick Mail performance.
Oh, really?
Used to be cast very differently, and now it's
sort of pink flamingos and stuff, isn't it? Now? It's really fun.
Oh.
So, Grace, what would your
segue back to Grace?
Thinking about
Pink flamingos.
Rick Mail playing a part there that we might not associate him with. So, if you could play any part in musical theatre, what would that be? So, if you weren't bound by your particular casting, what would you play?
Oh, That's hard. Currently, my dream role is in a musical called Hadestown.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
We
Yes.
love it.
Eurydice.
Yeah.
I would love to do that show.
You'd be brilliant at that.
Oh my God, I'd love to if it comes back, please. Because I love that kind of like folky musical theatre, guitar-y stuff. Now times are changing. You can never say never. I'd love to give Glinda a go or Elphaba. But yeah, I'd love to be like, I think an Asian Glinda would be so cool.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe that. Oh, there's loads I want to do. I'd love to do Eliza in Hamilton.
I'm so old. I was like, My Fair Lady, surely.
All I want is a rose.
You must be from the new musical, My Fair Lady.
My old lady.
I just want to do everything. I love all shows.
That's so great to have that, like, still like absolutely love it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh,
I'll play
definitely.
all the Elizas.
Yeah, all the Elizas.
I was just wondering, would it be possible for you to do Six as a one-woman show, since you do know all of the parts?
So the night that I made my debut in the last track, favorite new word.
That's right. Another word that we haven't explained is track, which let me say what I think it is, and then you can say no, Pippa. That's why everyone always complains when you don't follow your track, which is literally like the track, the path that you follow throughout the show, where you might pick something up, your prop, and then you go on a stage, where you might stand on the stage, where you come off the stage, etc., etc. And you have to follow your track, because if you go on someone else's track, then you're going to crash into the other trains or musical theatre actors. Am I right?
Yeah. If I was playing a role, so for example, the person playing Juliet, so Miriam Seekley, probably doesn't say my track, she probably says my role.
Okay, right.
But then if she was talking about like her, where she exits and things, she probably would say my track. But then as an ensemble member, if I was talking to like a swing, say like my cover was saying like, oh, where'd you go on this bit? I'd be like, oh, my track goes left and then off stage. Do you know what I mean? Downstage right. And then if a swing is covering two people, they would call it a split track.
Ah.
Yeah, split track. That's a new
Split
one.
track, that's new
That's new.
for me.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But I guess the track is essentially your role, but in more like, as you say, like mapping physical terms. I don't even know. We all
Turns
know
out-
what it means really, but no one can really explain it. I
You just
guess.
explain it in your own special way.
Yeah.
My
In
track,
your
my
track.
track. In my track. The way my track is, I track my track.
There you go.
Track.
I can't even remember what we were talking about before that.
No.
And it'd be great to take a showstopper and show and then like work out afterwards what your track was in that show. It's like,
Yeah.
I played Crab 7.
Well, we have an interesting principle when we're rehearsing, which is this is when I. So we try to perform with such commitment that it's like, well, this is when I move down stage to open the basket to give Eliza Doolittle the fish at this point from the basket that's on the dockside. So we try and make those choices with so much commitment that it looks as though it's pre-written and part of our track, right? Yeah. So it's quite
Right.
an interesting principle that we try and embed in the rehearsal
Yeah.
room.
So maybe we
Love
should
it.
put the word track into our rehearsal process.
Well, I'd like to, Pippa, but I do think it's brought quite a lot of confusion to the table this afternoon.
Yeah. Can I ask a question
Yes.
about your rehearsals?
Yeah.
So like in general with showstoppers, right? So do you kind of say like, for this performance, I will be the lead and you'll be playing opposite me and you'll be supported, or does it just
No.
happen?
No, we don't do that. It just happens organically in the moment, but then we have to make it look as though it was meant to happen, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So the person who finds himself as the lead, are you always like, oh no, what have I done?
Depends
All
what the subject is.
responsibilities.
If it's like, if the show is like the history of London
tracks.
of tracks, yeah, then be like, oh no, Pippa's the lead, she's gonna mess this up, man. I always remember Joshua's face when it was Julius Caesar, the musical or something like that, and he just happened to become Julius Caesar. And I just remember him looking at me like, oh no, I don't know anything about Julius Caesar. But of course, it doesn't matter because actually we're all there. You know, it's not really on that person's back. I think when we first started, it was really both terrifying but also really great to be the lead, because you're like, oh, I get to sing all the big songs, but actually once you've been in it for 1,000 years, you really enjoyed doing any old bits.
Certainly, when I first joined in training sessions, we used to people were very afraid of being protagonist, and we had this concept of the protag shield, which is then in a conversation something someone might put up to try and prevent it. So if I'm if I said to Ali, I said something that sort of tried to protagonize her a bit, like Ali, you've got so much ahead of you. You're the best young baker I've ever seen in my life.
And then I might say something like, but you're the one going to the top and rising.
Oh, but it's not about me, Ali. I see something in you that I've not seen in anybody else.
Let's look in this oven together.
And then I might come on and say, oh, you two, I can't believe that you're both going to the competition tomorrow.
Damn it!
And now they're a dual protagonist.
But I think that's really interesting because what you're just saying there about us sort of freaking out if we don't know enough about a subject. But actually, as you're proving now in your Anne Juliet musical, anything goes, right? Like you can take any time in history or any subject matter, rip up the script and make your own new version of it.
Yeah,
right?
you can literally just that's good for you guys. You can just say it's in the style of Anne Juliet.
Yeah.
You should be like, we don't know the story, so we're just going to change it. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe in our Julius Caesar musical, he doesn't get stabbed in the back, right?
Yeah.
What happens if he doesn't? Which I guess is what you guys are doing with your story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Very nice.
Love
So
it.
do you have a favourite show that's on in the West End at the moment that you've just enjoyed watching? If you've had any time, because obviously you're on stage all the time.
Yeah.
Being successful.
I love Come From Away.
We love Come From Away.
I
love it.
I think it is amazing. They won many Olivier's when Six was also nominated for many. So we were kind of like, how dare you? But I was also kind of like, how dare you? But I totally understand because I'm your biggest fan. So yeah, I saw the show like when it first opened and I absolutely loved it. And I remember actually because we performed at the Olivier's, as did they. And I saw them all backstage and I was actually looking at them like, oh, hello. I really love the show. And then they performed at West End Christmas.
Yes,
And
where
they
I saw
were
you.
amazing.
That was one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard. So West End Christmas is a charity night every year that they do at the Actors Church in Covent Garden, and they raise money to more research into AIDS and supporting victims of AIDS and HIV. So lots of performers from the West End go along and perform. And so Grace was singing some Christmas hits. I made up a song and Come From Away actually mixed Holy Night into the give me the diamond of your peace.
Into
What's
the
that one?
prayer.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
One of the most beautiful things
The
I've ever heard.
harmonies, like the work they did was amazing.
Yeah. Would it be fair to say they were the only group that really like mixed out what they do with, it felt like they'd put 7,000% of energy into that.
Yeah, it was amazing. And Phantom were amazing. You're amazing.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Why are you
Well
still
remembered.
here? I remember the song. It was only a few months ago.
It feels like 1,000 years ago. Yeah, we made up a song, me and Duncan.
About the in-laws.
About, I said, what did I say? I said something like, what are you...
What's the question?
Oh, yeah,
asked
what's
at
the question?
Christmas?
What's the question? You ask a question. It said, how do I get rid of my in-laws or something? wasn't it?
Yeah.
And so I sang a song called.
And that was my
You're
favourite
Still Here or
bit.
something.
When you're like, your mom said to me, you look nice. Honestly, we were literally all wetting ourselves at you. It was
thanks.
so funny.
But
was so
enough
fun.
about Pippa being great and making up songs.
So thanks.
How would you like to make up a song, Grace?
Oh, do you know what? The girls in my dressing room, we do this thing, right? Before we go on stage, if sometimes we're feeling a bit sluggish, had too many sweets, and we'll do like raps.
Right.
So my friend will be like, Grace, rap about this, or like we'll be like, rap about this, and I'm always really awful. Like I'm really bad. But then every now and then, like in a blue moon,
Right.
something will happen, and I'll just get these bars out, and everyone's like looking at me like, what? But yeah, it's a very rare occasion. So I told them all that I was doing this, and they all just laughed. So yeah, so that's good. So this one's for you, girls.
With that kind of support behind you. How could
Yeah,
this
they
be
love
any-
me really. We are sisters.
Well, we're excited. So let's make up a song.
Yeah.
Do you want to do a romantic duet together?
Let's
Let's
shall
do
we?
it.
Okay, great.
What's the setting for this?
I quite want. Can you be in a library? I don't know. I want you to be in a library, like two school nerds who like can't quite tell each other that they love each other.
Okay.
Aww.
Cute.
Oh, hey, Joanne.
Hey, Wendell.
I was reading this book all about the wives of Henry VIII.
Really?
Yeah, he wasn't too nice to them.
Oh, I know. Who's your favorite?
Oh, well, it seems to me that, well, you remind me of Catherine of Aragon.
Wow, thank you.
So noble and so wise and so fierce. And yet, inside you there's a Jane Seymour, a survivor throughout all the years.
I see myself more of a Catherine Howard.
Yes.
She's sassy, quirky, and also really cool. But then at the same time, Catherine Parr is really funny. But I hope you don't find her attractive, 'cause she'll make you drool.
You are every queen to me. You are every queen there could be. You are every queen to me. Every queen there could be.
Oh, Wendell, your sweater is so nice.
Oh, you think?
Yeah,
Does it remind you of anything historical?
actually, it reminds me of that time that Jane Seymour
Yeah?
had a son called Edward, and he died.
Oh.
But Jane said to Henry that if this son grows up really fashionable, then please look after him, because I know he'll do well.
And I feel like there is a someone, like I could stand behind you wearing a crown. And every queen needs her prince consort. So Joanna, and don't turn me down, 'cause you are every queen to me. Every queen there could be.
Every queen to you.
Every queen then to me. Every queen. Every queen. Every. Shh.
This is the library.
Me.
That was so great.
love
Thank
it.
you, Grace.
Thank
That
you.
was so fun. Also, can I just say that obviously Jane's son did die, but Jane actually died first. I should have said that. I forgot. Sorry, Jane. If you're listening,
Please
Grace is
don't
looking
tweet.
up
Do
to
not
the-
tweet in, Jane.
please don't
She's
tell Jane
apologised.
Seymour. She is a dead legend.
Well, thanks so much for coming on, Grace. If anyone wanted to follow you somewhere, how would they find you?
Go follow you somewhere.
But don't follow me anywhere, please. Follow me on social media, though. At Grace Mouat, Mouat, on Twitter and Instagram.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Grace.
Thank you.
Thanks, Grace.
That was Grace Mouat.
Oh, she's so nice. I really liked her.
Oh, and so fascinating as well to get just like a different insight onto the industry as well. Like the world of swings and covers and that whole side of the business is fascinating.
Also, have you been on Grace's Instagram, which I recommend highly?
Oh.
She does all these sort of fashion shoot type things. She just looks like a blooming supermodel, mate.
Oh, wow. There you
So,
go.
so just go and check out how awesome she is
Yeah.
in amazing lighting and a really, really great hats, I might say.
Amazing
Some great
lighting
hats
and
there.
great hats.
It's the name of her first solo album.
Well, that was this month's episode of the Showstopper podcast. If you enjoyed it, or indeed If you didn't, but want to find out more about Showstopper the Improvised Musical, you can check out our website, www.showstopperthemusical.com. Obviously, as all live entertainment in the UK is currently cancelled, you won't find a list of upcoming gigs there on the website, but you will find pictures and videos and other bits of information that you might find interesting about the show and the people who make up the show. And you'll also find there and on our Facebook page some information about the ways you can support the company at the moment. Obviously, with our entire touring schedule having been cancelled, things are a little bit hairy for anybody involved in the entertainment industry at the moment. And so if you enjoy what we do and you have a few extra quid hanging around and want to send that our way to support us, we would be incredibly grateful. And there's information there about how you can do that. Also on our Facebook page, there'll be a link to that live show that we streamed from the Lyric Theatre on the 16th of March. You can check that out there as well. And we're also investigating what kind of cool and fun things we can do with live streaming in the future whilst we're all remote. So watch this space and hopefully we'll have something else to share with you very soon.
So you can find us on the old Facebook /The Showstoppers. You can find us on the old Twitter at The Showstoppers. You can find us on the Instagram at Showstopper Musical.
It takes a global pandemic for Pippa to learn all of our social media handles, but she's got there.
But most of all, you can find us here on the Showstopper podcast every month.
Absolutely. And if you were to, for example, give us 5 stars and a rating if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts or somewhere else, that would help lots of other people find our podcast as well and have something to do in the coming weeks and months.
Yes, because I don't know about you, Andrew, but I filled in a hell of a lot of online surveys this week, just as a way to pass the time.
Yeah, I'm a parent and therefore have had no free time whatsoever, and I'm very jealous of everyone else having to fill up their time. But I am very pleased for you.
You better go and look after your child, and I will go and have a bubble bath.